jabs. Number 5, false positive PCR tests used to quarantine students and teachers. Number 6, gender fluidity nonsense. 7, critical race theory. 8, unisex bathrooms and locker rooms. 9, computer software and search engines that falsify history, health, and safety info, including fake fact checkers. And number 10, little kids at daycare centers and elementary schools are being read story time by drag queens. Transvestite sexaholics. And I guess you could call this number 11. Don't forget that 99% of school food contains chemical additives and is void of any nutritional quality whatsoever. Thanks, Michelle Obama. Well, she wasn't the only one, but... I mean, it's... And I've asked this question before. How do you expect to send your... especially if you're a conservative Christian or independent thinking person in general, libertarian-minded, whatever it might be, how do you expect to send your children to these public schools, government propaganda centers, where I saw a picture of a child opening a bag of pencils or pens or something with Stacey Abrams' face plastered all over the packaging? Oh, no, that's no bias, right? How do you expect to send your kids to the public education system, public propaganda indoctrination centers of today's schools, not all of them, but many of them, most of them, and expect them to come back to you as normal, level-headed individuals, let alone to have the same values, morals, and principles that you have? And I've heard the argument, well, they need to be exposed to other thought. Well, yeah, exposed is one thing, but not propagandized every day, all day long. So all you're doing is working against yourself. Hey, Bobby, Susie, have a great day at school today. And don't believe anything they tell you. And when they come home and they've been read, story time by a drag queen, and they're told that they need to have their pronouns down, and that it's okay to be, different gender this week, change it that week, and you can go into the girls' bathroom if you're a little boy, if you feel like you gravitate towards more being a girl, and so on and so forth. And by the way, keep your mask on so you can't breathe or think all day, and stay 6 feet apart. How do you expect them to come back to normal? Remember in the olden days when kids would go to school and they would be taught reading, writing, and arithmetic? History lessons? Those days are long gone, folks. Long gone. And just kind of to fill this out even more, if you need it, there's this story that came out last week from Infowars.com, and you can find it at many other places. Just do a search engine. Parents outraged after biological men allowed to sleep in cabins with 5th grade girls. Just do a simple search. Parents outraged after biological men allowed to sleep in cabins with 5th grade girls. Staff allowed to sleep in gender-designated cabins they identify with, according to California law. The next level of the cultural takeover is here. 5th grade girls during a school trip near San Bernardino, California, according to local media. This has led to outrage among parents. Well, I would think so. Several of whom said they would have made other arrangements if they had known about the camp's policy of placing staff in cabins they identify with based on California law, according to KTLA. No parent should feel the way I feel after knowing what could have happened to my daughter, said one of the parents, Susie Johnson. Parents say they are not accusing anyone of a crime, but they are very angry the school district did not let parents know about the camp policy. Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't need a permission slip from pretty much anything now, and you can go get an abortion without your parents knowing, well, it's no big deal to let biological men who identify with women to go sleep in a cabin at a camp with your 5th grade daughter. A spokesman for the district told KTLA the district takes all complaints and concerns seriously and is currently investigating. These parents say they just want others to be informed of the policies so that they can make decisions for their own families. How dare these parents not just completely trust their little ones with these depraved psychopaths? And then moving on to this story, which is also connected in a deep and very profound way, I believe, to why our culture has been completely destroyed, turned upside down. Well, I'll just say, obviously, it's because of the absence of the teaching of the Bible. Yes, our Judeo-Christian beliefs that actually founded this nation and the God of that Bible are being totally excluded from society. Not just neglected, but excluded. By and large, government and civil society has said, we want nothing to do with God or His Word. And then you have this. Chinese government is rewriting the Bible with communist principles. Watchdog group warns. This is from ChristianHeadlines.com. Written by Milton Quintanilla. This is profoundly disturbing, folks. And you say, well, yeah, that's communist China. Of course they're going to do. They're burning down churches. They're imprisoning and beating Christians. Most of the church in China is underground, meaning they meet in secrecy. You're lucky if an entire church group has 1 or 2 Bibles. They have to share it. They try to memorize it. Well, hey, Chinese communists, folks, this can happen here. It can. If they can shut down our churches and synagogues by simply saying there is a pandemic and you can't worship God because you can't sing aloud, and you shouldn't attend a church or synagogue because it can't stay 6 feet apart. Chinese government is rewriting the Bible with communist principles. Watchdog group warns. Spokesperson for the Chinese persecution watchdog group, the Voice of the Martyrs, warned that the Chinese government is currently attempting to rewrite the Word of God in accordance with communist values. Quote, this is a project that the Chinese Communist Party announced in 2019. At the time, they said it would take about 10 years to release a new translation of the Bible. VOM spokesman Todd Nettleton told FaithWire in a recent interview. He noted that the reimagined scriptures would include a variety of principles, including Confucianism and Buddhism. Well, hey, yeah, just mix it all up in there. Stir it up real good. Throw in some communism. This new translation would really support the Communist Party. In a recent post on Facebook, VOM pointed out that the CPP's revisions of the Bible will include core socialist values and the removal of passages that do not reflect communist beliefs. One example of the changes was revealed in a high school textbook released in September 2020. In the textbook, the CCP changed several verses in John chapter 8. VOM said in a social media post, as the biblical story goes, Jesus forgives an adulterous woman despite the Pharisees' calls to stone her to death under Mosaic law. The CCP's translation, however, alters the story where Christ ends up stoning the woman, as he admitted, I am also a sinner. Nettleton told FaithWire that he found it shocking that the rewritten passage diminishes Jesus' divinity. Folks, obviously this is a satanic agenda. When you get right down to the very nitty-gritty truth, the very bottom of this all is straight from the pit of hell. Rewriting the scriptures? Putting Confucianism and Buddhism into it? Core communistic and socialistic principles and removing the divinity of Jesus Christ, which is what every cult ends up doing? Obviously, he went on to note that the purpose of the revisions is to demonstrate the CCP's attempt to lessen Christianity's influence on some of its citizens. So, should this planet continue on its course of devolution, what would a new generation in China look like being raised with the communist-approved translation of the Bible, where Jesus stones a adulterous woman to death and admits that he's a sinner? That's just one passage, and that's more than enough. All I'll say is this: I would not want to be the people involved with this little project when you die and when you got to stand before God. I don't even want to see what that would look like. Changing the Word of God, altering it. Insanity. All right, let's move on to, I think this is positive. CPAC speeches taking place this weekend, and some very encouraging comments. This is the kind of thing that gives me hope, at least a little bit of hope, about the future of this country. If we can have free and fair elections, that is. But I want to play a couple of sound bites from CPAC, specifically from the governor of the great free state of Florida, Ron DeSantis. A quote here is, "We've stood for freedom across the board, and the result is Florida has defeated Fauciism." Listen to this.
And why do even these biggest critics and lockdowners come to Florida? Well, I think it's simple. From the very beginning, we refused to let this state descend into some type of Faucian dystopia where people's freedoms are curtailed and their livelihoods are destroyed. We protected people's rights. We protected people's jobs. We protected small businesses, and we made sure that every kid in the state of Florida had an opportunity to go to school in person 5 days a week. In Florida, we reject the biomedical security state, which erodes liberty, harms livelihoods, and divides our society. And we not only reject it if it's government, we have done things like ban vaccine passports and mandates. Because it's unacceptable to simply subcontract out Fauciism to big companies. So we've stood for freedom across the board, and the result has been Florida has defeated Fauciism. Freedom has prevailed in the Sunshine State.
How about that, folks? Just nailed it. Great speech. That's just an excerpt, of course, but that right there, I mean, and he has never wavered. I haven't seen him with any type of hypocrisy like these blue state governors and politicians that run around and henpeck you and tell you got to wear a mask, you got to get the vaccine, you got to stay 6 feet apart, you can't go to work, you can't go to school, you can't live a normal life, and if you hope to someday, you got to do exactly what we tell you to do. And then they're out there flying around, going to mansions, eating inside restaurants, not wearing a mask, going to the Super Bowl and what have you. Listen, Ron DeSantis ain't perfect. I know that. Nobody is. But at least he has stood strong on one of the most important issues of our time over the past 2 years. And he never wavered, and he didn't back down, and he didn't give in. And, that's why a lot of folks say, well, if Trump runs in 2024, what about Ron DeSantis? Might Ron DeSantis be running in 2024 also? Listen, the more the merrier. We need strong leaders, and we can't just hope and pray that Trump is going to be, in 2 years, is going to be able to run again and win. Wait, 2 years? That's a lot can happen, folks. And we need more than one viable candidate that can actually lead this country, can actually speak coherently, and will not cave in, back down, give in to